In a quiet house along a busy street in Lagos, a young bride vanished on her wedding night, and what was uncovered later was darker than any story elders whisper after midnight. And here's the truth behind the heinous crime. The house had been empty since that night, until Leke showed up, thinking he'd found a cheap bargain. Leke had always believed Lagos was a city that rewarded the sharp-eyed and punished the foolish. So when he found a one-bedroom apartment in Victoria Island, advertised for a price that looked like a typo, he didn't hesitate. The agent, a nervous man who kept wiping sweat from his forehead, shoved the keys into his hand so quickly it felt like he was giving away a cursed treasure. "Oga, you're lucky," the man said, avoiding Leke's eyes. "People are rushing to get that room, people they drag the place." But the moment Leke stepped into the apartment, the air shifted. It wasn't just cold, it was dense, pressing against his skin like invisible fog. The living room smelled of damp earth, though the floor tiles were spotless. The curtains barely moved, yet Leke felt the sensation of being watched, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Still, he shrugged it off. Cheap rent came with quirks, after all. He dropped his bags and a few other things, stretched out on the couch, and told himself he had won. By evening, he began to suspect otherwise. The silence was heavy, like the apartment was listening. When he entered the bedroom, the mirror facing the bed was slightly fogged, as though someone had just breathed on it. He wiped it with his hand, but the fog patch returned instantly, forming a faint oval shape, the exact size of a human face. Leke laughed nervously. "Old building," he muttered. "Probably moisture." But as the night deepened, the pressure in the apartment grew. And when he finally lay down to sleep, he felt a cold tickle on the back of his neck, soft as a fingertip. He sat up instantly. No one was there. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that the apartment wasn't empty. It was merely pretending. Leke drifted into a restless sleep, the air heavy on his chest. Sometime past midnight, a soft sound crept into his dreams. A dragging noise. Slow. Rhythmic. Wet. His eyes snapped open. The sound wasn't coming from his mind, it was coming from the hallway just outside his bedroom door. He held his breath and listened. Sha, sha, sha. It wasn't the quick, confident steps of a living person. These footsteps were uneven, heavy on one side, like someone with a limp pulling their leg across the floor. The sound moved closer, pausing every few seconds, as though the thing walking needed to gather strength between steps. Leke's heart hammered. He considered calling out, but something primal inside him screamed "don't," as if acknowledging the sound would invite it in. The footsteps reached the bedroom door and stopped. Silence swelled. The kind that rings inside the ears. Leke stared at the door, waiting for the handle to turn, the hinges to creak, something. But nothing came. After what felt like an hour, he finally forced himself to move. He grabbed the torchlight and crept toward the hallway. The hallway was empty. But the floor tiles glistened faintly as if a wet trail had just evaporated. And on the wall beside the door, 5 long streaks appeared, like fingers dragged across the surface. Leke's breath caught. He stepped backward until he hit his bed. He didn't sleep again that night. And though he didn't know it yet, the thing in the hallway had taken its first step toward him. The second night came too quickly. Leke spent the day convincing himself that the footsteps were a trick of an overstressed mind. Lagos noise had followed him into sleep, simple, logical, safe. By evening he was almost laughing at himself. Almost. But when he finally drifted off, sleep did not come gently. A breath grazed his ear. Not air. Not a sigh. A voice. Soft. Female. Whispering words too faint to understand, yet too close to ignore. The breath curled into his ear like smoke, warm at first, then icy cold. Leke jerked upright, gasping. His room was pitch black, Nipa had struck again, but he could feel someone beside him, the mattress dipping slightly as if sharing his weight. He swung the torchlight widely. Nothing. Yet the whisper returned, brushing the edge of his consciousness, a language that didn't belong to this world. He clamped his palms over his ears, but the voice slid inside anyway, like it was speaking directly into his skull. Minutes crawled by before the whisper faded. Leke sat trembling, his shirt damp with sweat. When he finally dared to look at the mirror, a faint message had appeared in the fog on the glass. "Get out." His breath stilled. Someone, or something, was aware of him. And it wanted him out of the apartment he had just placed his last money on. By the third night, fear had grown roots inside Leke. He went to bed early, hoping exhaustion would shield him from whatever haunted the apartment. Instead, it delivered him straight into its hands. He awoke suddenly, unable to move. His limbs felt pinned by invisible weights. His chest barely lifted with each shallow breath. Sleep paralysis, he told himself. But then he heard it. Breathing. Right beside him. Slow. Wet. Too close to belong to anything human. The exhale brushed his cheek like cold mist. Leke's eyes darted around the room, but he could only move them a little. Something shifted beside him. The mattress dipped deeper, as though someone crawled closer. A shape hovered at the corner of his vision. A woman's silhouette, neck bent at an unnatural angle, hair dripping as though soaked. Her face was inches from his, but obscured by darkness. Still, he felt her smile. A hand, cold, thin, trembling, rested gently on his chest. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped. The thing leaned in, her breath sour with river mud, her voice whispering from a throat that shouldn't produce sound. "You're in my room?" The paralysis broke. Leke shot up with a strangled cry. The bed was empty. But the sheets around him were damp, as though someone had been lying there moments ago. He scrambled out of the room, leaving the lights on until dawn. The apartment was no longer merely haunted. It was occupied. Leke began avoiding the apartment at night, wandering around Lagos until exhaustion dragged him home. But staying away meant nothing to the dead. That morning, just before dawn, while rubbing his eyes and heading toward the fridge for water, he froze. A woman stood in the kitchen. She wasn't facing him. Instead, she stood perfectly still, her back rigid, her head tilted slightly to one side as though listening to something inside the wall. Her hair hung in long, wet strands that dripped onto the floor, forming a puddle around her bare feet. Leke's throat dried instantly. "Hello," he whispered, because he didn't know what else to do. The woman didn't move. Not even a twitch. The air around her shimmered faintly, like heat rising off the road. But the kitchen was freezing. Leke stepped backward slowly, ready to run. The woman turned. Not her body, just her head. It rotated far past what was humanly possible, twisting until her lifeless eyes landed on him. Water leaked from the corner of her mouth, sliding down her chin like a drool. Leke stumbled, a drop of urine dripped into his boxer, before falling to the floor. The woman blinked once, twice, and then flickered out like a dying bulb. The puddle remained. And with it, the knowledge that she wasn't merely a ghost. She was trapped. She was angry. And she was watching him. By morning, Leke looked like someone who had not slept in days. His eyes were sunken, his movements jerky, and he kept glancing over his shoulder as though the shadows were following him. He stepped out of the apartment for air, real air, the kind that didn't feel like it was pressed through the lungs of the dead. Outside, the sun was hot, unforgiving, and honest in a way the apartment had forgotten how to be. An elderly woman sweeping the corridor watched him with pity and fear mingled in her gaze. She paused her sweeping. "Young man," she called softly, "you just moved into that place." Leke swallowed. "Yes, Ma." She shook her head, clicking her tongue. "They didn't tell you, did they? Nobody tells the newcomers. They just want the rent." Leke stepped closer. "Tell me what?" The woman leaned on her broom and sighed. "That woman, the one who lived there before you. She didn't leave. Not even when they carried her body out." Ice rippled through Leke's spine. What happened to her? The old woman lowered her voice. Death didn't chase her away. That room became her grave. And her prison. She pointed at his door. Every night, she searches. Every night, she remembers. Leke felt the corridor tilt. Remember what? The old woman simply whispered one sentence before turning away, how she died, and who killed her. Leke walked back into the apartment with his heart pounding. The air inside was colder than the hallway outside, as though the temperature dropped the moment he stepped through the door. He went straight to his bedroom, hoping daylight would weaken whatever lived with him. Instead, daylight revealed something worse. A single, wet footprint stood at the edge of his bed. It was small, clearly a woman's foot, and facing him. As if she had stood there watching him sleep. The water glistened on the tile, unmoving, refusing to evaporate. Every instinct in Leke's body screamed at him to run, to vacate the cursed building, to never look back, but something rooted him in place. The footprint wasn't alone. Trailing slowly away from the bed were faint streaks, like someone had dragged their dripping body across the floor on hands and knees. The streaks led to the mirror, where another foggy message formed as he watched. I am still here. Leke backed away until his shoulders hit the wall. He fumbled for his phone and started recording, whispering into the camera, "This is not normal. Something is wrong here. I am not imagining this." A cold breeze brushed past him, despite the closed windows. His phone flickered. And then a woman's voice whispered through the speaker, though no one had touched it, "Leave my home." The recording stopped on its own. Leke dropped the phone. That afternoon, Leke stormed into the landlord's office, refusing to sit or greet. "I need to know what happened in that apartment," he demanded. "Right now." The landlord, a plump man with an easy smile, raised both hands in a show of innocence. "Oh, Mr. Leke, what is all this?" he chuckled nervously. "Is it rats? Or the neighbors are making noise? Don't play games with me." Leke slammed his palm against the desk. "There is something in that apartment. Something alive or dead. And everyone in the building knows except me." The landlord's smile twitched. "See, it's not what you think. People exaggerate. Lagos people and their superstitions. Did someone die in that room?" Silence. The landlord's eyes darted to the door, then back to Leke. He lowered his voice. Her name was Halima. Young woman. Quiet. Stayed alone. One night, neighbors heard screaming. When they broke the door, she was gone. Gone. Leke repeated. But the old woman outside said they carried out a body. The landlord swallowed. They did. 2 days later. Found her in the bathroom. Drowned. He shivered. But the bathtub was dry. Leke felt his skin crawl. After a long pause, the landlord whispered, "Since then, nobody lasts more than a few nights inside that apartment. And you didn't tell me. Would you have taken it if I did?" Leke didn't answer. The landlord sighed. "If you want to leave, leave. But I don't give refunds." Leke walked out without another word. He didn't care about the refund. He cared about surviving the night. At dusk, Leke returned to the apartment with trembling hands. He planned to pack his things quickly and find somewhere else. Anywhere, hotel, friend's house, even sleeping in his car. But the moment he opened the door, the lights flickered violently as though reacting to his presence. The living room felt smaller, the walls slightly closer than before. He went straight to the bedroom. His suitcase lay open on the bed, exactly as he had left it. He shoved clothes inside hurriedly, refusing to look at the mirror. He grabbed his laptop bag, his toothbrush, a few random things, then the door slammed shut behind him. Hard. Leke froze. His breath fogged in front of him, the room now freezing cold. Shadows crawled across the walls like living things, gathering near the wardrobe. A woman's shape began forming there, first a blur, then a silhouette, then the outline of her dripping hair. "Please," Leke whispered before he could stop himself. "I'm leaving. I'm going." The shadow paused. Not retreating, but listening. Then, slowly, it drifted toward him, each movement slowed down by soft dripping sounds. Drip. 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 Leke backed against the far wall, clutching his suitcase like a shield. The shadow stopped inches away. A whisper slithered into his ear, too late. And every light in the apartment went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Leke scrambled for his phone flashlight, but the moment he switched it on, the screen flickered and died as though something drained the battery in one breath. In the pitch black, something moved. Something wet. Something crawling. A cold hand brushed his ankle. He yelped and stumbled backward, crashing into the wardrobe. A scream, raw, female, agonizing, ripped through the apartment. It didn't come from one direction. It came from everywhere, the walls, the floor, the ceiling, inside his skull. Another scream joined it. Then another. And another. The apartment wailed like a graveyard of trapped souls. Leke clamped his hands over his ears, but it was useless. The screams cut through flesh and bone, vibrating his teeth. He dropped to his knees, shaking violently, whispering prayers he hadn't said since childhood. The door burst open. Light spilled in from the hallway, faint, yellow, blessed. As soon as the light touched the room, the screams cut off instantly, like a switch had been flipped. Leke didn't wait. He bolted. He ran out of the apartment barefoot, down the stairs, into the street, gasping like he had just escaped a burning building. But halfway down the road, he heard something behind him. A soft, dragging footstep. Following. Not fast. Not slow. Just enough to promise, you can run. But you cannot hide. Leke didn't stop running until he reached the main road, where buses honked and traders shouted. Human noise. Real noise. Noise that pushed back the memory of screams still ringing in his ears. But even among people, something felt wrong. A man roasting corn kept staring at him, frowning deeply. A tricycle driver slowed down, looked Leke up and down, and muttered, "Chai, if follow you come." Leke stumbled backward. "What did you say?" The driver sped off. A group of women selling fruits crossed themselves as he passed by. One whispered, "He carries shadow." The street vendors who normally begged for customers looked away from him. One even shut her eyes tightly as though refusing to see something perched behind him. Leke glanced over his shoulder. Nothing. But the air behind him felt thick, like someone was breathing softly against his neck. He hugged himself and stood trembling beside a cold drink stall. "Brothers," the stall owner murmured nervously, "you won't buy something?" Leke nodded shakily. "Cold water." The man handed him a bottle, but refused to touch his hand. He placed it on the counter and stepped back. "You no suppose they're outside like this," the man whispered urgently. "She dey follow you. And as long as you dey fear, she get power." Leke's mouth dried. "Who?" The man didn't answer. He simply whispered, "Pray she never remembers your name." That night, Leke checked into a small roadside hotel. It wasn't clean, and the walls smelled like old soap and sweat, but it had one thing the apartment didn't: silence that wasn't watching him. He locked the door 3 times before sitting on the bed and typing "Halima Surale death incident" into his phone. At first, nothing came up. But after scrolling deeper, he found a 2-year-old blog post. The headline hit him like a blow: "Young woman found dead in apartment, foul play suspected." His hands shook as he read. Halima had been a tailor, living alone. Neighbors said she was cheerful, hardworking, private. One night they heard banging, furniture slamming, screams that didn't sound human. When they broke the door the next morning, she was gone. 2 days later, her body appeared in the bathroom, face submerged in the empty tub, eyes open, skin cold. No water found anywhere. The police ruled it a suicide. The neighbors did not. One comment at the bottom made Leke's blood freeze. "Some of us believe she wasn't alone that night." Another, "Her spirit still wanders." Don't rent that place unless you want a mysterious company. Leke dropped the phone. He wasn't dealing with a normal haunting. He was living with a woman murdered violently and bound to the place where she died. But the worst comment was the last: "She always comes back for the man who ran." What? I am finished. Leke gasped. Head bent, terrified. How did the beautiful bride die? Who killed Halima on her wedding eve? Unravel the chilling truth behind the haunted apartment at Victoria Island, where shadows linger and justice demands to be served. If you enjoyed this folktale and you felt the tension like you were there, hit like now. Tag a friend who would be brave enough to watch it. Subscribe to African Mind Prints and put on the notification to journey into part 2 of this chilling tale when it is out. Discover the secrets that those shadows try to hide and prepare yourself for the truth that refuses to stay buried. Don't miss out, your journey into the unseen starts now.